The new Constitution was, in the end, an outline. It was remarkably spare and specific of language, but it was an outline vast in the principles it contained. It was, without question, the most innovative political document of an age remarkable for innovative political documents. The nations of Europe, handed down from centuries since the fall of the Roman Empire, had been constituted around decades and decades and centuries of legal, social, and political tradition. The Constitutional Convention created a new government in 4 months, constructed not of history, not of tradition, not upon race or ethnicity, but upon logical, even-handed propositions about power and politics. The convention finished its work on September 17th, 1787, and the new Constitution was ready to go out to the states for their ratification. The Confederation Congress had specified that it would relinquish its power to a new Congress if and when the Constitution was approved by 9 of the states. That proved to be harder to get than expected, if only because the old revolutionaries could now greet the new Constitution on their old and familiar turf in the states. Old Samuel Adams was irritated at the very opening of the new Constitution. "We, the people of the United States." Didn't the convention understand that the states, not the people in general, had created the United States? "As I enter the building, I stumble at the threshold," Adams remarked. But the new men in the convention proved as adroit in managing the ratification of the Constitution as they had in writing it. To sweeten their public image, they took the name Federalist as the title for their pro-Constitution group, as though they were principally concerned to keep up the identity of the United States as a federation and pose no threat to the states. The old revolutionaries were left with no alternative but to be branded with the negative title Anti-Federalist, and the name alone meant that the opposition was halfway lost before they'd even opened their mouths. Hamilton, along with James Madison of Virginia and John Jay of New York, undertook the work of propaganda for the Constitution by writing a series of 85 articles for the New York newspapers between October 1787 and August 1788. These Federalist papers explained, analyzed, cajoled, pleaded, demanded on behalf of the new Constitution. And they still form today the most brilliant commentary on the Constitution ever written. The chief use of the Federalist Papers, however, was not in swaying general opinion. The Federalist Papers were aimed especially at the audience of lawyers and politicians who would compose the state ratifying conventions. And they hit their target well. These advantages that the new men had paid off handsomely, although slowly. Delaware and Pennsylvania ratified the Constitution almost at once. Massachusetts followed on February 6, 1788, the sixth of the states to ratify. And by the summer of 1788, the required 9 states had been lined up. Unhappily, Virginia, New York, North Carolina, and Rhode Island remained in the other column. And everyone knew that unless New York and Virginia embraced the Constitution, it had no hope of ever working. However, the promise of a Bill of Amendments, which would explicitly restrain the federal government from interfering in religion, free speech, and a free press, lured Virginia to ratification. In New York, Hamilton and Jay threatened the New York legislature with a promise that New York City would secede and join the new government as a separate state of its own, unless the New York legislature ratified the Constitution. The threat was enough. New York ratified on July 26, 1788. With that, a new Constitution and a new government had been born. But who knew whether they would work?